Those were the words that shattered Elena's quiet morning, words she never imagined would come from the lips of Adrian Hale, the elusive, stone-hearted CEO whose face could silence a room and whose eyes carried storms that never seemed to pass. She had been standing in his office doorway only long enough to deliver files, but the moment he spoke those impossible words, her world tilted, her breath locked in her chest, and nothing, not her debt, not her loneliness, not her past, felt steady anymore. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, healing, and second chances, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Tales. Your support helps us spread more heart-touching stories. Elena Summers had been many things in life: brave, hopeful, hurt, tired, but she had never been someone who believed she would be asked to marry a stranger, especially one whose life was wrapped in money, rumors, and painful silences. She was a simple event assistant at Hale Corporation, invisible to most, replaceable in the eyes of many, except the few who noticed how her hands trembled when she worked late nights or how she kept checking her phone as if expecting a call that never came. Life had not been gentle with her. She had lost her mother early, her father disappeared, and the debts left behind followed her like unwanted shadows. Adrian Hale, on the other hand, lived in a world carved from steel and glass, cold penthouses, silent meetings, ruthless decisions. He was a man known for buying companies like other people bought groceries, for never smiling at anything except quarterly numbers. But the world did not know that behind the cold exterior was a loneliness so sharp it hurt to breathe. He had money but no family, success but no warmth, a reputation but no softness left in him. And now, because of an unexpected twist in his personal life, he needed a pretend husband, someone to stand by his side for 1 week. Someone who didn't want him, didn't need him, and wouldn't fall for him. Someone like Elena. The proposal wasn't romantic. It wasn't sweet. It was a transaction, he told himself. $10,000 for 7 days of presents. 7 days of pretending. 7 days of looking like he had something in his life he didn't actually have: companionship. For Elena, $10,000 meant survival. It meant paying her mother's old medical debts that still haunted collection agencies. It meant fixing the leaking ceiling of the tiny apartment she lived in. It meant maybe, for once, breathing without fear. But agreeing meant stepping into a world where she didn't belong, pretending emotions she had long stopped believing in, standing next to a man who felt as unreachable as the sky. The first day felt like stepping into a different universe. Adrian's mansion wasn't a home, it was a monument. Wide marble floors that echoed with every hesitant step she took, hallways lined with art she didn't know the names of, windows so tall they felt like they watched her more than she watched the world outside. Adrian kept his distance even as he tried to play the role. He spoke coldly, walked briskly, and maintained a polite gap between them as if she carried fire. But Elena noticed things the world didn't. How he paused before entering the dining room, as if memories lived there he didn't want to face. How he held his breath anytime she laughed softly, like the sound was unfamiliar. How he looked at her hands, small, tired, fragile, as though wondering how someone could look worn yet gentle at the same time. The second day brought something unexpected. A warmth. A softness. Not from him, but from the life that began to slip between them. They were photographed together at a charity gala, walking side by side under chandeliers that made everything glitter, including her uncertainty. She had borrowed a dress provided by the company, simple, creamy, flowing beautifully around her. The reporters whispered, the cameras flashed, and for the first time in years, someone's hand found hers, not out of affection, but out of instinct. Adrian's fingers wrapped around her like he wasn't used to touching real human warmth. And Elena, despite knowing it was all pretend, felt something shift. By the third day, the house no longer felt impossibly silent. Adrian came home earlier than usual. He didn't say why. Maybe because he found her humming in the kitchen. Maybe because the loneliness of work felt heavier now that someone breathed quietly in his home. She made tea, not because he asked, but because she noticed he never finished his coffee. He accepted it with a confused look, as if he had forgotten what it felt like to be cared for, even in small ways. As the week continued, the line between pretending and feeling blurred. Elena found herself looking for Adrian's rare half-smile when he spoke about his mother's roses. Adrian found himself watching the way sunlight touched Elena's hair when she stood near the balcony. They shared stories, not intimate ones, but fragments. A memory of a childhood book she once read. A memory of his first winter alone after losing his parents. They didn't talk about pain, they talked around it. Yet each unspoken sentence stitched them closer. But no story grows without a shadow. The fourth day brought one. A tabloid headline. A rumor that Elena was a gold digger paid to stand beside Adrian. Online comments that mocked her clothes, her background, her simplicity. She didn't cry, but the tightness in her throat felt unbearable. She tried to hide it, but Adrian saw. For the first time since she had known him, anger flashed in his eyes, not cold anger, but protective, burning, fierce. He had spent years not caring what the world said about him, but seeing Elena hurt awakened something he didn't know he had, the need to defend, the need to shield, the need to care.